Political analyst Sami Al-Arian, who's the director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University. Sami, how do you think the remarks made by Prime Minister Netanyahu will be watched and analysed beyond Washington?
Well, so far what I've witnessed is just Hollywood. It's just pure theater with a third-rate actor, basically. He's trying to bring a narrative that is totally a false and fake narrative. He's talking about the victims, the Israeli victims, on October 7th being 29 of 9/11s, while he actually killed, if I'm going to use his logic, almost 8 million Americans since. When you talk about almost 50,000 Palestinians dead, with those who have lost their lives or under the rubble, and about 22 million Palestinians, Americans injured, which is equivalent to about 121,000 in Gaza. So what is he talking about? I mean, he's the war criminal. He's the one who's insisting in this war of extermination against the Palestinians, a genocide, ethnic cleansing. And when you look also at the kind of performance he's doing, is trying to imitate what the Americans usually do, American presidents, when they address Congress. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to use emotions, but no one, I think, is really taking him seriously, knowing the person that he is. Let's note also that he is addressing Congress for the fourth time. That shows the complicit nature of this Congress. There is no other foreign leader ever in the history of the United States that addressed Congress 4 times. Churchill addressed it 3 times. And here we have a war criminal being advanced by U.S. Congress as being someone who is championing democracy and human rights. And he is basically promising total victory, a victory that he's unable to achieve after 10 months of genocide.
Sami, you are originally from Palestine. You've spent a lot of time in the US. As you see the protests on the streets of Washington, also Tel Aviv, how do you think that pressure could sway anything? As John Brain mentioned, this before in the US was very much a domestic issue, but we're seeing changes in swing states like Michigan, and also just so many, tens of thousands of people protesting in Washington right now, and even some US lawmakers boycotting Netanyahu's speech in Congress.
Indeed, about 30% of the Democrats are boycotting, and you have tens of thousands of people who have been marching since last October. And we've seen last spring how many campuses around the country have erupted also in trying to force the political elites in the country to change course, particularly the White House, but it hasn't come to a good conclusion so far. And I think social unrest is one of the keys, by the way, that determine elections. I mean, it hasn't happened since Vietnam, since then the Iraq War. So it has the potential actually to derail the current administration from having a term, a presidential term, even after Biden had withdrawn. So the question is, will we going again to see these demonstrations on campuses? That depends, of course, whether the war would continue or not. If it's up to Netanyahu, he wants to continue it in eternity. He doesn't have any plan for ending this war. His political future depends on it. He's going to be certainly called to his policies as well as his action on that day would be called into question, because it was his failure to stop that attack. So certainly he would be condemned for it. But more importantly, he is under several indictments for corruption in which he is threatened with prison sentences. A lot of people believe that he would be convicted, and therefore he is in no hurry to end this war for personal reasons, in addition to his ideological bent.
Sami, as we look at these pictures of the lawmakers there in Congress, just constantly, as he delivers his remarks, they stand up and they clap for him, clearly supporting what he is saying. And we are in such a time of transition right now. Why are we seeing so much support 10 months in? And could this change with Kamala Harris? And what do you expect also if there is a possible Donald Trump re-election?
I I mean, there are many reasons, some geostrategic, and some, of course, are internal reasons, and much for political reasons. We know that what we're witnessing today are stooges, puppies. These U.S. congressmen and senators have been in the pockets, many of them have been in the pockets of the Israeli lobby. That's not what I say. That's what experts say. Somebody like Stephen Walt and John Mearsheimer wrote a book about it. It's called The Israel Lobby, in which they talk in details about the impact of the Israel lobby on U.S. politicians, particularly when it comes to Israel and Israeli aid. We have seen several U.S. presidents in the past trying to change course in terms of policies, but they have always been faced with this Israel rock, with this pro-Israel lobby that always try to put Israel's interest in front of the U.S. interest. Unfortunately, they have been successful. They have been very successful with many politicians. But today we also saw, the courage of many politicians, almost 80 senators and congressmen, all Democrat, and one Republican, I should say also, Mr. Massey from Kentucky. They refused to bow to the Israeli lobby and attend this speech by a war criminal, by somebody who's been at the cusp of being called into question by the International Criminal Court for his not only policies, but for his complicity in killing tens of thousands of children, women, innocent people, and destroying the lives of almost 120,000 people, some of them for life in terms of maiming them, in addition to the total destruction of Gaza. This is a war criminal in action. We haven't seen in the history of mankind such a Holocaust, really Holocaust. And many Jewish friends and many Jewish people actually they object to this, but that's what we're witnessing today. I mean, it's what's good for the gander, for the goose is good for the gander. If they think that Holocaust only happens to the Jewish people, that's ethnocentric, very myopic vision and very myopic opinion. What we have here is Palestinians are being ethnically cleansed. A genocide is being committed. I have witnessed also a Jewish doctor who went to Gaza for 2 weeks in May, and he came shocked of what he had seen. He said, I've never seen, and I've been in 30 years of practice to 40 different missions around the world. I've never seen once toddlers being shot at with snipers, not with one bullet that may have gone straight, but with 2 bullets, one to the head and one to the chest. This is a witness, an eyewitness, who is also happened to be Jewish, and he is a medical doctor, and he examined dozens of children, and he said these children were not just in the crossfires, they were targeted. We're talking about a criminal army. Mr. Netanyahu now before Congress is talking about the bravery and the courage of the Israeli soldiers. But what he's not talking about, that these Israeli soldiers are nothing but war criminals. They haven't been able to achieve any of his military objectives. They have failed miserably, except for killing children, women, and innocent people.
Sami Al-Arian, for now, thank you very much.